Check it, your time is 13 minutes past the hour of 1. Welcome to the Joy Sports track here on the Superstation Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Benedict Owusu. Well, I'm sitting in for your regular host, Gary Al Smith, and from now till the hour of 2, quite a number of issues on our table. Cameroon will no longer host the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. Also, Sierra Leone disqualified from the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. And then we'll take a look at the just ended African Women's Championship here in Ghana, which Nigeria won over the weekend. Later on in the program, we'll look at Tyson Fury's fight with Deontay Wilder in Los Angeles over the weekend. Well, a lot was said going into that fight, and it ended in a draw. Joy Sports editor Nathan Lato will join me as we look at the issues around the fight, and also we'll see if there should be a rematch or not. So all these and more here on the show, and as I noted, from now till the hour of 2 is the Joy Sports track with me, Benedict Owusu. Let me hear from you on our WhatsApp number, which is 0244 340 437, 0244 340 437. You can also post your comments on our Facebook page at Joy 99.7 FM, on Twitter as well at Joy 99.7 FM, and you can tweet at me at Chrissy Benedict. It's indeed a packed show, and I've got two strong men in the studio with another wonderful lady. I don't know if I'll be permitted to call her mommy on the show. So you're welcome. This is the Joy Sports Tracker with me, Benedict Owusu. Well, we have to start in the CAF Executive Committee at its meeting on Friday, 30th November in Accra decided on the case of Sierra Leone in the 2019 Total Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. Now, Sierra Leone is disqualified from the qualifiers and all its matches are annulled. Now, CAF's decision is as a result of Sierra Leone failing to meet the conditions aimed at lifting a FIFA ban. This will result in a group of 3 teams, and the standings of Group F will be as follows. And definitely I'll give you that later. But, I've been speaking to Ibrahim Kamara, who is spokesperson of the Sierra Leone Football Association.
Well, yes, you're very correct. And it's actually, a news that we see to be quite a terrible one, basically, because we all know how much our hopes, as a nation were alive in terms of qualifying for the African Cup of Nations. This time around, having missed out of the biggest football tournament in Africa, basically, for the past 2 decades. I mean, the last time we qualified was in 1996. So, I mean, in all of the other times, this was actually the qualifying phase that every Sierra Leonean was looking up to, especially having won against Kenya at home. I mean, we had 3 points, even though we lost against Ethiopia in our second match. But after that match, the group was clearly open. In other words, we had the chance, to qualify. But now, we've been disqualified, out of the group basically. So it's actually quite a very bad news to the country.
Looking at everything that was going on, did you anticipate this?
Well, not really, because when you look at quite recently what happened in Ghana and Nigeria as well. As a matter of fact, Nigeria, where the government took a decision to remove the president. I mean, that was Pinnick at that time, and then FIFA gave them 72 hours to reinstate him. Otherwise, they will face a ban. Nigeria, I've reacted positively. In other words, they reinstated Pinnick. Just so that they would avoid the ban. So we were also thinking that the government in Sierra Leone would have taken the same direction. In terms of doing exactly what FIFA requested for, just so that we could have prevented from being suspended, basically. So, but, we are presently in a situation where government has hugely stepped into the affairs of football. And this is something that government, that FIFA is actually frowning at very seriously. Globally, they frown at the interference of government in the affairs of football. So basically, it's something that we were not really anticipating. We thought the government was supposed to have taken a step, to ensure that the suspension gets lifted, just so that we could have avoided, this qualification, basically. But this is where we are presently. It's really quite a very sad news.
Why do you think the government, as well as the FA, were not able to reach an amicable solution for the ban probably to be averted?
To be honest, I think ego from the part of the government officials that are in charge, it's really what has led us into all of this. Because when it happened, when the situation came up at first, they were saying all sort of things, calling FIFA all sort of bad names, how FIFA is corrupt, FIFA cannot come and tell Sierra Leone what Sierra Leone should do, and things like that. And clever people were like, but this is the world governing body for football. As a matter of fact, not every country is a member association to FIFA. We went to FIFA and we requested to be a member of FIFA. FIFA presented their laws to us. You understand? And one of their laws clearly in the statute is basically to, at all times and unreservedly, follow the statutes and instructions of FIFA. So if you had agreed to that and you've become a member of FIFA, now FIFA is giving you an instruction, is giving you a directive, and you don't want to go by it, it doesn't make any sense. And having said this, the government also called a meeting at State House. Having said all sort of things against FIFA, they also asked this same president that they said they are going to set her aside, Madam Aisha Yohansi, they asked her to write a letter, ask the president of SLFA, to FIFA, to write a letter to FIFA and kindly ask FIFA to lift the suspension. So it was really crazy. You are saying you don't want the president, you want her to go aside, but at the same time you took her to State House in a meeting and asked her to write to FIFA, ask the president of SLFA, asking FIFA to lift the suspension. So this was crazy. Why don't you? I mean, it's really quite a terrible situation in the country presently, my brother.
Okay, so
and this has led us to where we are. So the government is basically trying to save their face now, because they don't want to go back, to what they had already condemned, basically. So they're holding on to what they said. And FIFA is also saying, no, we also are saying, until you reinstate Madam Aisha Yohansi and Christopher Kamara, because the action taken in terms of setting them aside, they see it as unconstitutional, because the country's anti-corruption commission went to the premise of the FA, so SLFA. They barricaded the place, they locked the offices, handed over the keys to the vice president, asking him to be in charge and things like that. So FIFA see that as an undue third-party interference.
Exactly, Mr. Kamara. So Mr. Kamara, what do you think this disqualification will do to the current situation? You see it as one that will probably maybe let the government sit up and know that, okay, we've been disqualified and that we really have to sort things out quickly and get football back in the country?
Well, it's basically it's up to the government to decide that, because already we're in a very big in a very terrible situation in terms of the country's football. So it's up to the government to sit back and say, okay, we're going to try and do A, B, and C, and get football back into action. But the truth is, they've already put us into a very big problem, and they've allowed us to miss out a very big opportunity, which is the opportunity to have qualified to the Nations Cup. I mean, who knows? We could have qualified. We could have, beaten Ghana in Ghana, or probably have a draw in Ghana, and then get a win against Ghana at home, and go for a good result also in Kenya. This is football. You never can tell. But all of that opportunity, has been wasted, basically. So, like I said, it's up to the government to sit back, and decide as to whether they want to do things and try to make things up and bring back football alive.
Okay,
Mr. Everything is completely there.
All right, so that was Ibrahim Kamara. He is the spokesperson of the Sierra Leone Football Federation, speaking to me after that decision from the Confederation of African Football. So, if you get to the CAF website, it is there. Sierra Leone no longer part of the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers, and what it means is that 3 teams in our group. Hans Mensah and my colleague joins me in the studio to take us through. Hans, so what does it mean and what does it say about our group?
So essentially, the communication on CAF's websites is, go straight to the point. The fact that Sierra Leone have been expelled as far as the qualification is concerned, their matches are nulled.
Yeah.
And the rest of the results from the group of 3 teams and the standard of Group F is as follows. So Kenya lead the pack on 7 points with a goal difference of 4. Ghana also after 3 games 6 points with a goal difference of 4. Ethiopia with 1 point after 4 games with a goal difference of -8.
All right, so the Ethiopia is not 4 games because Sierra Leone are not in.
Sierra Leone, that's also annulled as well. So three matches for all the teams in that group. So 1 point
for Ghana. We did not play against them.
Against Sierra Leone, yeah.
We just have our 6 points.
Absolutely intact.
A game against Kenya. So what it means is that Kenya, Ghana are through to the Africa Cup of Nations next year. And no matter what happens in their last game against, because now Ethiopia will not play any game.
Yeah,
they've played all their
they are
games.
done.
So now it's left with Ghana and Kenya to play here in Accra to determine probably maybe if Ghana will overtake.
So
Kenya
effectively, Ghana and Kenya go through to next year's Africa Cup of Nations.
And
so
we say that what 1 month's meat is what
another month's poison.
So say there we are through. So well, I'm joining the studio by my friend and brother Jerome Moche, and also Rosalind Namu is in the studio with me. She worked for the Confederation of African Football at the just ended African Women's Championship. Also worked for the local organizing committee. We'll find out from her perspective of the tournament that just ended with Nigeria winning the competition. Guys, if you just tune in, this is the Joy Sports Track with me, Benedict Owusu. You can join us via WhatsApp. The number is 0244-340-437, 0244-340-437. You can also post your comments on our Facebook page at Joy 99.7 FM, on Twitter at Joy 99.7 FM, and tweet at me at Kwesi Benedict. Jerome and Auntie Rosie, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'll talk about the African Women's Championship, but let's start with the expulsion of Sierra Leone from the African, the AFCON qualifiers. Good for Ghana, John.
Yeah, of course, because we wanted to play because we were ready for them. It didn't happen, and we were waiting for a confirmation of the status of that match. It didn't come until I think is it over the weekend that we heard that CAF was to take a decision on that, and this afternoon it's been confirmed that indeed a decision has been taken to expel them. And I don't think it isn't anything that we didn't expect. In fact, we expected it. So if it has happened, good for us. The important thing is that, like you said, we didn't play them, so we do not lose anything. It is, I think, Ethiopia and Kenya that played them, so they will lose their points, as the table is clearly showing. The fact that we have qualified is also another joy, but maybe the important thing will be beating Kenya here, not necessarily to I mean, even if we top the group, I don't know what that will add to our qualification. I will be interested in,
but just to show supremacy on the continent. I mean,
of course,
if you're in a group with Kenya,
absolutely,
Ethiopia, and Sierra Leone,
absolutely,
and you top the group,
but my key interest will be avenging that defeat we suffered in. Is it Nairobi? Yes, and I'm sure that we can do. In March we must beat them and see how things will go. But from now we should be thinking of our preparation for the AFCON, even though we don't know where we are going to play it, because Cameroon too has lost the rights.
Yeah, that's something we'll talk about here.
We should begin to think of preparation, the plan for it, and we shouldn't forget it's only 6 months away. In this country, you know how to do our things. I'll leave it there.
All right, we'll definitely talk more about that in terms of what happened on Friday when the executive committee of the Confederation of African Football met here in Accra. As Jerome mentioned, Cameroon also will no longer host the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. But now let's focus on the African Women's Championship. That's the main reason why we brought Auntie Rosalind Namu in the studio. Very, very colorful tournament for me. I don't know what you also think.
Well, I think that we've been moderate. I mean, organization-wise, I think it's one of the tightly organized competitions. Colorful, I'm not too sure. But I think that on our own targets, I mean, the LOC would say they met their targets. As a Ghanaian, I don't think we did because our queens did not get to where we were anticipating they would. But I think that it was one of the best organized competitions. Very little to complain about. I mean, before the starts, we were all apprehensive about certain things. But once it took off, we were able to get it tight. The expertise of organizing events showed greatly in this, and it impacted. None of the teams that participated had anything to complain about. And for me, I think that is the most important thing. I mean, we had crowds that were genuinely and not partisan. Those who came to watch genuinely came to support and watch women's football, and it helped out. Eventually, we had a very good final. Not the final we had hoped for, because everybody was anticipating Ghana would have been there, but we were not there. But I think that's, I mean, on the scale of 1 to 10, probably we had 9 over 10. The organizers had 9 over 10.
You were in Cameroon 2 years ago for the same tournament.
Yes.
Comparing what happened in Cameroon to that of ours, what would you say?
I think that it was almost a par. The only difference that Cameroon beat us to was, I mean, the crowd, the attendance, the involvement of people who were there to cheer the team. So, significantly, the first lady was the team leader of the Cameroonians, and so from start to finish, she was there. The president was also there for the final. Yesterday, on Saturday, we saw the vice president. I mean, we didn't see most of our key women politicians and those who matter, the leaders, the women leaders here. We were thinking that we would have seen more of them, especially with the Black Queens. That didn't happen. When we went to Cameroon, they were there. Yeah. They had their times with the national teams. They were at their training sections. They were there with them.
Maybe if Ghana had qualified, probably maybe they would have come to the stadium.
But we needed to motivate them for them to qualify before we thought of building it up. You can't reap what you've not sown. If you've not encouraged me, how do you motivate me to go all out? I mean, that is besides the point. But for me, what I'm saying is that we shouldn't pay lip service. It looks like people will be interested. I wonder what would have happened if it were the Black Stars. 10 years ago, we all saw what happened when the Black Stars were playing, people falling over themselves to get a ticket to go and watch the games and all that. So, but that notwithstanding, I think that the reason why the Black Queens did not make it past the group stage is something else that we will talk about later. But for me, I think that in terms of organization, we did very well. The difference between Ghana and Cameroon were just the crowd. And I would say that it was for Cameroon, it was a dress rehearsal for the 2019 AFCON that will no longer be, because they wanted to show to the world that they did not just love football, but men's football. They loved football. They had not hosted any major events for almost close to 2 decades. Yeah. So this was a golden opportunity to tell the world that they were ready. And I believe that, but for the decision to increase the teams to 24, and if it were left at 16, Cameroon would have had adequate facilities, because when we went, they were all over the place.
Yeah, they already have 3 venues, so it's just one that they needed to add.
And for me, it is the increment of the venues that have also cost them, because it's meant they needed to look for other resources to, develop or improve upon what they already had, and that has been the issue. But for me, I think that I enjoyed Cameroon because Cameroonians watched the game. The stadiums were filled, and beyond the stadiums, there were fan parks. And every match day, you go and the fan parks are filled. It is seated, like arranged with a large screen, and they are there. There is entertainment, and everybody was in the national colors. Those who wanted. So, for instance, if I was a Ghanaian and I wanted to support Ghana on the match day, you come and you see me in my Ghana color, and that was the fun.
So why couldn't we replicate same here?
Well, the first and foremost, there was nobody at that time that Cameroon was being held. There was no LOC. So there was no LOC member that traveled to Cameroon to see because every time you learn from what is happening in the tournament with preceding years, like the Olympics, you realize that when you go to the Olympics, a delegation from the next host is officially acknowledged, and then there is an official ceremony.
But you're not a member of the LOC?
No. Please let me explain. And then officially, the flag is handed over to you. When we went to Cameroon, there was no LOC setup. So it was Lineade, who was then in charge of women's football, who is also an ESCO member, who received the CAF flag on behalf of Ghana.
Yeah.
And then when she came, she duly presented it to the president, who then presented it to the ministry. So it was from that point that they started building up. But I'm sure we have organized events before, so we knew what exactly we should have been doing. The challenge we had was that we left the organization a little bit too late. We had 2 years to organize, but technically we used like 1 year to get our acts together. And that was what some of the challenges.
What was that? Was that the only challenge?
And then also the publicity, I'm sure. I mean, we can't behave like ostriches. We didn't do a very good job with the publicity from the beginning.
And whose job was that?
It was giving out to Global Media Alliance events. And
why didn't you ensure they delivered?
Well, I can't speak for the executive of the LOC. I only came in as a media operative to support with the media bit. And so I am not privy to the decisions and discussions. But for me, from where I sit, what I do as a professional and my involvement in some of these things, I think that we didn't also have a strong media committee. Because if there was a stronger media committee, they would have supervised all these things. Once the media committee was not very efficient and effective, we were bound to have these challenges.
All right, so you're still here on the Sport Station Joy 99.7 FM is the Joy Sports Track. I'm still in the studio with Hans Mensah and Jerome Ochre and then Rosalind Amu. Hans, what do you make of the competition?
I think I have to agree that on a scale of 1 to 10, we should give them 9. You know, 9. I also think that
with everything that happened, the football, the organization.
I'm talking specifically about the organization.
Okay.
I think we did very, very well with it. Considering the fact that, you know, in the final 3 months to kick off, there were a lot of things that we felt were not right. I especially was very critical of the way things were going.
Yeah, and we're not even certain.
We're not even certain whether we're going to host it or not. And so I expected a few things to go wrong. That did not go wrong. That, you know, they handled very, very well. And so I think that we have to give them thumbs up. I'm more interested in the lessons that we've learned going forward. At least we know that you don't wait until maybe a year before the start of the tournament before, you know, you start getting your acts together. You don't handle publicity in the manner that we handled it. I think that, you know, attendance could have been much better than we saw if publicity had been handled, you know, much better than it was. And so let's focus on the lessons that we can take away, because I'm not sure this is the last tournament that we are going to be hosting. People are already talking about that Ghana should, you know, bid for the African Cup of Nations. That
I posted
you understand me. I'm running a poll. I'm running a poll to see what people think. And so let's take the lessons and move on. But generally, I think that we've done a good job with the hosting of this tournament. So
Jerome,
not much to complain about.
Before Jerome comes in, I think that it is also important for us to learn lessons from the way we handle ticketing.
Yeah,
I think that we didn't do a very good job. I mean,
very, very good.
There was so much this coordination. I mean, we were not so coordinated, and that is also one reason why some people did not come. But I think that these, like Hans said, these are lessons that we should pick up. 10 years ago, when we hosted the AFCON 2008, it was better with regards to ticketing. FIFA and CAF now frowns upon selling tickets at the gates at the stadium on match days, and so you either do online or advance, or you find other places of selling the tickets. I think we had chosen to do it at the banks and other outlets. What we did not do was that once that decision was taken, we should have done enough education and announced it so that people, because we are not used to buying tickets to go and watch a football game from the banks. Other countries may be used to that. Ghana, we are not. So
I think there was a big problem with that. Even when the announcement was made, people went to ADB and still could not get tickets.
So that is one of the lows that we had. But I think that at a point we did not know whether we had to sell the tickets or whether we needed to do free gates and all that. So these are some of the challenges that honestly and objectively we had. And we can pick important lessons from that so that going forward, if ever we get to host another international competition, we don't make... 2023, we will be hosting the All Africa Games. The African, they say now is the African Games.
The African Games,
yes. So we need to take valuable lessons so that we don't repeat them when the time comes for us to deliver again.
All right, Jerome, Auntie Rosalind has given what 9 over 10, Hans 9 over 10.
I think,
in your view, what do you make of that?
I think 9 is fair. In fact, it's good.
With the organization.
Yeah, because I'm struggling to pick out what it is that was so bad that it will negate some of the positive things that we saw. And maybe the only thing that comes to mind, apart from what you've said, it's how media was handled. I think to a large extent, a good job was done, a professional job was done. What was, however, lacking was something that someone mentioned, which I think is fair and legitimate, that there were no buses to, for instance, take journalists from Accra to Cape Coast and Cape Coast to Accra. We've seen that being done at some competitions elsewhere. Yeah. So perhaps we should have had that one too here. And if you take that out, the other remarks, I'm sure, are positive. I listened to the Nigerian coach. I listened to the South African coach. Someone asked about, I think it was Felix, asked about how they saw the competition. And they gave high marks. High marks. I mean, the Nigerian coach, for instance, was talking about the fact that he's been to competitions elsewhere. Yeah. And if he's grading what he saw here against those competitions, he thinks that organization was very good. And he made an interesting comment about the quality of hotels and the air conditions. Yeah. I mean, that should tell you that a good job was done. The South Africans also said the same thing, and even went to the extent of talking about the spectating at Cape Coast, and
Cape Coast was
and how they were received. I mean, she was saying that wherever they went, they were received with open arms, and people are excited about their presence and all that. It tells you that things were done well. Otherwise, some of these good remarks wouldn't have come out.
Quick one, real quick. On the Cape Coast bit, I think that it serves as an important lesson to move some of these events, some of the games, outside Accra, Kumasi, and the likes. Look, I don't remember the last time a game was hosted at the Sipon, for instance. Tamale once in a while gets a game here and there, but largely
Sipon is not in good state.
It's currently, of course, but are we going to leave it to what?
Yeah, we can put it in good shape.
We can put it back in good shape and take games there. If you look at what Cape Coast did, I don't think that people expected that the fans were going to troop to the Cape Coast Stadium when it wasn't even Ghana playing, but they did. Again, I know that the report is going to be compiled by the LOC in terms of the organization of the tournament. Yeah. That document should be a very important document that in the future, if we have to organize a competition of this nature, we can fall on and then look at where there were challenges, look at where we need to improve, And so my appeal is that we are going to, see that document as an important document. And in our hosting of the Africa Games in 2023, we'll fall on that document to ensure that some of these hitches that occurred do not occur again. Very often we don't rely on such documents. I don't know the extent to which the LOC relied on the report from the 2008 AFCON that we organized. Yeah. But it's very, very important that when we have to organize competitions, we fall on those reports, see the challenges, then look at how we are going to rectify it. I think that the next time we'll be talking about a 9 over 10, we'll be talking about a 10 over 10.
Auntie Rosalind, we are wrapping up. But what are some of the positives we can draw from this competition going forward?
Well, I think that we need to learn how to plan on time. We need to know that now genuinely people love to watch football. I mean, it was amazing. After all what has happened, people still came out to watch the game. We are great organizers, but we can't leave anything to chance, and we can't say that. I mean, we need to break away from this proverbial Ghanaians are last-minute people. That we like to do things last minute. And also the fact that women's football is developing. What is the legacy for women's football? Sadly, we did not go beyond the group stages, but definitely it is a positive sign that says that if we invest and we plan well, we can also still be up there. We have taken a step backwards, and it's going to affect us, but nonetheless, we need to build up on whatever we have achieved and make sure that going forward, we can do a greater thing. I mean, next year we are going to play the the World All African Games qualifiers for 2019, I guess. We need to qualify for it as defending champions. The Meteors would also be playing. We need to make sure that whatever it is that we didn't do right here, we do them right, so that we can at least qualify for the next All African Games and subsequently.
Well, finally, for you, Nigeria won their 9th title. Worthy winners?
With regards to worthy winners, I think they played for it. I always say that if you get Nigeria in the final of any women's championship, be rest assured that they are 70% champions.
Okay.
But for me, I think that for all that they have done and for what it would have done for African women's football, I desperately wanted South Africa to win. It's about time we had a new face to them. And the 2 times that Equatorial Guinea won, they were the ones who stopped Nigeria. At the semi-final stage. And I think that we should be able to find a way. We need to have. It's not about the tactics or the technique. I think it's more of a psychological problem that most of the teams that play against Nigeria in the final have. And this one, I'm still crying because I really wanted South Africa. They have invested. If anybody has given important meaning to what it means to develop women's football, I think that South Africa has it. And I'm excited that they are going to go to the World Cup. What I said, I think last week we had a seminar, the SWAG AIPS Africa seminar, and I made a passionate appeal to CAF that whatever support they've been giving to the men to show up at the World Cup, they should consider extending similar support to the African teams, women African teams, so that they can also prepare adequately, and when they go, they can do better than they have done. I think South Africa will make us proud next year.
Auntie Rosie, thanks so much for passing by.
Thanks for having me.
So it's still the Joy Sports Track with me, Benedict Owusu, here on the Superstation Joy 99.7 FM. We switch sports and talk about boxing. Then we'll come back to the African Cup of Nations, which now it is clear that Cameroon are no longer going to host the tournament next year. But we have to talk about one big event that happened over the weekend. Now, Tyson Fury shot at completing a remarkable return to the top of world boxing. Saw him survive 2 knockdowns in an enthralling draw with WBC heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder in Los Angeles. Well, to help us look at this is Joy Sports editor Nathan Lato, who is on a boxing beat. Nat, did it occur to you that the fight was going to travel the full length?
I said 2 things here in the lead up to the fight. I mentioned that I was going to reluctantly give this fight to Deontay Wilder. Reluctantly because I'm not very comfortable with his technique as a world champion and knowing how far he's come in his career. Secondly, I also said that we should make space for the surprises in boxing, because when you go back and take a look at that iconic fight between Tyson Fury and Vladimir Klitschko, you realize that Tyson Fury surely had something to give to the rest of the boxing world. Tyson Fury's strength, one of his biggest strengths, is not necessarily his reach, but the way he effectively uses the reach. And those are one of the very cardinal points of boxing. Now, in boxing, the 3 main scoring areas are your ring generalship, your effective aggression, and your defense. So you see, sometimes the non-technical eye, the regular fan of boxing, will sit back and say, oh, this guy has thrown more punches. This guy has been more, aggressive in the ring. But it is how effective it is and how scorable those punches are. That is what we're looking at. Okay, so for me, I was not too surprised. Only that my friends who go to the betting corners on the, and get on their phones and bet will be very disappointed because this was skewed, one way or the other. So it is very important to note that, of course, this is also going to spell a lot of things, for the eventuality of what we're going to see in the heavyweight division, because you also saw a Luis Ortiz. Come up and do a fabulous job on the night, and it tells you that Ortiz is not such a bad boxer. I mean, he's only lost to Deontay Wilder once in his whole career, and that should tell you that he is there, he's ready to go. So what I foresee happening is a quartet of major heavyweights who probably will be fighting amongst themselves.
So it's definitely
and
going
carrying
to be a big 2019 for.
Oh, definitely.
But you know, one judge scored in favor of Fury, the other scored in favor of Wilder, and one scored a draw. How would you have scored it?
I would have given it.
Because I thought
I would have given it a majority decision.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'd have given it a majority decision. For Fury in the worst case scenario, because you see, as I always say, the knockdown always does something. You see, because for the knockdown, for each round, in each round, depending on how smooth it goes for either boxer, you either have a 10-9, 10-8, or a 10-6. Now, you get the 10-6 in the instance where there is a knockdown. You understand me? So, for him to have done 2 major knockdowns and for him to have also delivered most of these scoreable punches, in my opinion, I was expecting that the fight go to him. But you see, this is the thing that happens with all of us. Like I said, you see, for me, I was carrying almost 3 caps. I mean, I was wearing almost 3 caps: the cap of a journalist, the cap of a regular fan, and also probably somebody who wanted to score the bout at the same time. Doing all of these things at the same time, were a bit difficult, I must admit. But like I said, I would have done maybe a majority decision at the least for Fury. Sorry, for Wilder. And you see, this is one of the things I keep saying, that remember, the guy that Wilder is the champion. Yeah, he is. And defeating the champion takes a little more effort, a little extra
especially
effort.
When you've been
and
out
then
for
you
some
come
time.
into this fight where the champion knocks down his opponent, his challenger, twice. I mean, look, these are the same rules we've worked by over the years. So then why are we not applying it in this case? So for me, my immediate reaction was, this is a commercial decision straight away. Because like I told you, I foresee a very exciting 2019 where we're going to have a set of 4 major heavyweights.
Because there's Anthony Joshua waiting.
Exactly, Anthony Joshua is waiting, but there's also
booked April
but Hans and Benedict, there's also the possibility that fight could be pushed back further, of course, and it could increase the commercial value of the fight. Pay-per-view, sponsorships, purses, and all of that. So for those who are promoting the fights, this is fabulous news for them.
All right, so in immediate there should be a rematch.
Going to be.
Okay, let's just have a rematch. For me, I think it is important to set the record straight. So for that, for just establishing that, let's have the rematch, and let's have
real quick on this one. Before the bout, on Saturday, talked about the fact that there were going to be 2 possibilities for wins for either of the 2 boxers. That the only way I see Tyson Fury winning is on the scorecards. I don't see Wilder winning on the scorecards. The only way Wilder wins was through the knockout, and that nearly did happen.
But Hans, you are forgetting the knockout bit.
I'm coming to
the
it.
scorecards and the knockout for Fury.
I am coming to it. I felt that Wilder won this fight. I don't think that Fury should have gotten the draw because of those 2 knockdowns. First of all, I don't think that even the lead that Fury had on the scorecards was that wide, such that 2 knockdowns makes nonsense of all that he done. But I mean, commercial decision, we'll see another one in 2019.
So 2019 obviously will be very exciting in the heavyweight division. So that's how we'll wrap up the boxing discussion. But we have to still do some more here. We've got 9 more minutes to call it a show, and now we have to talk about the Confederation of African Football again, because now they are looking for a new host for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations after the executive committee decided to strip Cameroon of the hosting rights. And according to CAF, Cameroon has failed to meet a number of compliance conditions. John, did you anticipate this?
Yes, because I've heard rumors about a year ago that this will be taken away from Cameroon for the reasons that CAF cited. So I wasn't surprised at all. In fact, it's not something that came to me as a shock. And even apart from that, if you look at the events in Cameroon, someone might say, oh, it's only a section of the country. But you see, this is going to be a competition for the entire continent. The rest of the world would also be watching. So if things are not really stable there in terms of the politics, those are considerations that might not appear in CAF's documents. But for us watching, as observers, we definitely will be worried. I was not surprised one bit about this decision.
Now they've opened for countries interested to bid.
Yeah.
You think Ghana should go for it?
Should Ghana? Well, I mean, it doesn't do us any. Okay, so the first question is that do we have the facilities to do it?
Yeah, you will need 6 to do that.
We don't need 6. We have 5 as it stands.
We should overstretch ourselves.
I mean, it will take some doing. I think we can do it, but it's going to take a lot for us to
And
be
I was
able to pull
listening
it
to
off.
the South African.
We've already had South Africa.
Sports, minister, and she mentioned that they will need $24 million to do it. And
Well,
you don't think Ghana can raise that money or who's the tournament?
I mean, it's not, see, for Ghana, it won't be about money. There are going to be a lot of considerations. A lot of it political. I mean, we know this. A lot of political considerations.
But
And so,
we
we can. I have no doubts we can do it. But should we?
See,
Maybe that's a real question. Should we?
Should we? It's only 6 months to the competition.
Yeah.
Morocco is there. In fact, South Africa, as you were telling me before this show, are showing interest.
Yeah.
I want to travel. I would love. I would love. No. I mean, no. We only 10 years ago we had it.
Yeah.
And we couldn't even
It's
repair
too
our
fresh,
stadium.
yeah.
No, it's not too fresh. If we are talking about freshness, then maybe South Africa shouldn't have it.
So-
Because 2013 they had
Yeah,
it.
they
But
had
I'm
it
saying
in
that
2013.
we have expanded the competition. It's now 24 teams.
Yeah, 24 teams. So you need 6 venues to do it.
Yes,
not
and
4.
and you and I know that Morocco definitely will have the
They have the
facilities,
facilities.
to support.
They do have the facilities
yes.
because I mean there's a country that have bid for the World Cup twice.
South Africa also do. I mean, they have the capacity to host it. If I were CAF, you know where I would go.
but for Morocco, I think that they have a lot to gain from taking it up because, I mean, they've got ambitions of hosting the FIFA World Cup. They can make a huge statement.
Yeah, that's the last bit. So.
Exactly. They can make a huge statement by taking this up at short notice, doing a very good job and telling the rest of the world that, look, we are ready to host the entire, global community. With South Africa and Morocco's name coming up, I think that we better stay away. Ghana better stay away because
all right, so you've already
our chances.
Aside
real quick on
no, I'm aside South Africa and Morocco.
Yeah.
I mean, which other country? I'm here in Nigeria.
which other country? Yeah, maybe Nigeria also have the capacity to do it. You see, it's about countries with the capacity to do it at short notice.
Yes.
That is the main thing.
Yes.
Every country can host the AFCON. I mean, given the normal time range.
Yeah.
But the difference is that you've got only 6 months to be able
an
to do it.
Especially when you have 24 teams.
Absolutely.
You also have to consider
Good.
that.
Can you pull it off in 6 months? That's a real question. And so it immediately takes away certain countries. I mean, there are certain countries that shouldn't even thinking about this. Ghana ordinarily, yes, I would have said we should bid, but with South Africa and Morocco in the picture now, I mean, I don't think that we are going to get it ahead of South Africa and ahead of Morocco, if indeed the two countries are very interested. It's a sad situation for Cameroon. Jerome mentioned, I don't think that CAF would want the AFCON to be a selling point for political issues. There is a huge political row going on in Cameroon. Very often we see it. People realize that the eyes of the rest of the world are on this location, and then they are going to take advantage of it to get the eyeballs that they need to push their agendas across. I don't think that CAF wanted that to happen on their platform, and so it's understandable that it's been taken away from them. Which country will be able to do it at 6 months' notice? Ghana can do it. Should we do it? What do we stand to gain? And if I ever met somebody in government, I'd ask them, would they be interested? What would be the political considerations?
I think it would be a nice question to put to the minister.
Yeah.
If we should meet him now. But, Jerome, South Africa already have mentioned, as it stands now, they are the only country that have come out to say that they are interested to host a competition. At their annual general meeting, Danny Jordan mentioned that.
Jerome likes South Africa already.
Of course, South Africa is home. South Africa is home. South Africa is home.
If Morocco won't put in a bid, they should just hand it over to South Africa so that we can go and have some time there. You see, the last time Ghana came close to winning the cup was when?
No, you have to say we can go and work, not have some time.
No, time. I mean, work comes with time. You work within time. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that if Morocco won't put in a bid, I think it should go to Morocco. In fact, I have a feeling that if Morocco puts in a bid, they will have it.
Yeah.
So it should go there if South Africa is not coming in.
All right, so on December 31, CAF will announce the country that will host the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. So we've got 2 minutes to wrap up. Georgia the Junior joins me in the studio. We're going to do something very, very simple. Tonight, George, is the Ballon d'Or. Who wins it?
Oh, I think Modric should win this.
Really?
Yeah, I think Modric should win this. It has issues, I think. I mean, the nominations and all, with the fact that the World Cup winners were not really giving a look in. I think that Modric is going to win this. It's a year for him. And you look at the way the other awards have gone. I think it will just fall in place, and he's going to pick this one, and we'll be done at least with this Modric issue, because we've said that he's a great player. He's not been appreciated. I'm sure most of the guys are looking towards this, and Modric for me will be a fine winner. Just
remind us how it has to go, because I mean, if you look at what Modric is doing currently, there's nothing to write home about. He's not been on top form as we saw him at the World Cup. Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, and the other players are playing very well. So for someone who do not really know how this works,
yeah, but I think a lot really happened, because you're looking at the year in review, and a lot really has gone into this for him. And winning the Champions League, plus being runners up in the World Cup is huge. And to think that he had won the other awards, connected, because you have the FIFA awards and all, the thing that he had gone through is going to be very, very difficult. That this won't go the way, because the voting pattern, you can see that the voting pattern, those who are involved in voting for these key awards, they're not too different. The electoral college is not too different. And once they start thinking, FIFA best, and once they start thinking along a certain line, it's just easy to say this falls in. Maybe on another day we can discuss why World Cup winners are not given that opportunity, and somebody who didn't win the World Cup, when indeed there's a player like Varane who probably won the World Cup and the Champions League with him alongside, it's not there. So I think for me, it's Modric.
All right, so the Ballon d'Or, our event is tonight, and for the very first time, we're going to have the women's edition as well. So we'll have a woman win the Ballon d'Or. Tomorrow, when you join us at the Joy Sports Center, we'll definitely tell you the winner. From me, Benedict Owusu, and the rest of the team, is bye-bye.